Yeah. So she was loving you to the best of her abilities. Your beliefs became your truth, and of how you thought that you were missing love, or you believe that you were being loved, not as much as your brother.
Yeah,
So did you find yourself having any type of resentment for your brother?
lots,
Hmm.
lots. And my brother's got cancer. He's had cancer now for 4 years. And I've been digging really deep and thinking, how did I treat him? Because I watch my children. And I watch how
Hmm.
hurt they are if the other sibling pushes them out and all of that type of stuff. And doing a lot of shadow work because it hurts to go there. But was I always pushing him out? Because my mum didn't make me feel good enough.
Hmm.
Was I always pushing him out? And is that why he still doesn't feel good enough? We would play together nicely when my mum wasn't around. As you get older, resentment grows even more and you don't want them in your room. You don't want them coming out with you when you're out with your friend. I had a lot of anger and I didn't get rid of that anger, really.
And,
It may
and how,
still be a little bit,
yeah,
but
but how
until I
did
was in my 20s.
how did you do that? How did you move forth and more into the space of love and positivity? Because obviously you've gone through this process. How did you take that process? How did you apply that so to become where you are now, where you are able to speak about it and understand how it impacted you as you were growing?
I think when I met my husband late, I was 30.
Mhm.
So when I met my husband, it was like coming home. The
I like that.
first 2 years were madness because I just used to like to go and party all weekend because, it blocked the pain, didn't it? Work all week and live for the weekend. But then we got pregnant. Just before that, my husband decided we were both stopping smoking. So we both stopped smoking over Christmas. And then we got pregnant in the March. So it was quite easy to quit smoking because obviously I had someone else to quit smoking for.
Mm.
And we stopped drinking because he doesn't go out, and he's not like my dad was, and he wouldn't go to the pub and all of that type of stuff. So we would only go out together. So love that I had from my husband replaced the love that I craved all of that time throughout my life. So I was no longer jealous of my brother. So my husband replaced that. And of course, now I've got three other lovely little beings who love me, and I've got so much tremendous love for them that to some extent it doesn't matter what they do because they can carry on. My brother still lives at home. He lived at home before he got cancer. He went to university, got all the way to his last year doing his master's BEng. His depression got so bad he left just before the end. He never
Mm.
got his degree, never got his master's. But he's always lived at home and he's always felt not good enough and he's not had friends he goes out with and he plays on computer games. He's one of that generation. I would still get upset because,
Mm.
it would always be like, oh, I'm going here with him, or even when we were together, even with my family, even with my children, I still go, before I went no contact with my mum, and I had to do that. It was very bad timing, was all. If I hadn't have done that, I think I'd have ended up in rehab. I felt so ill. And
Wow.
I would go around for a craft day. Kids are all at school, it's fab. Spend time with my mum, but she would be calling my brother down, who lives in the house, come and sit with us. So it would automatically come up, well, hang on, he's with you all the time. Am I not enough?
Hmm.
Can you not just have that time with me? Where he should be using me to get him to come down to spend time with her.
Hmm.
So that built up into a huge thing, and I had to go no contact for those 4 months. brother unfortunately got cancer for a third time, so my mum was left with my brother. But I couldn't eat. I was throwing up every evening. I couldn't eat breakfast. If I ate breakfast, I was throwing up all day. So I wouldn't eat anything till my evening meal, and then I'd be throwing up. And realised it was anxiety, realised it was IBS. I'm like, don't throw up from IBS, but apparently you do, because I had every single scan and test possible. But as soon as I went no contact, everything was calm.
Wow.
Everything was peaceful. Now, I didn't stop at seeing my mum. I didn't stop at seeing my children. My husband was still in contact with her. She could have carried on seeing the children if she'd wanted to. But I just didn't have any of that. I didn't have the responsibility of looking after my mum or my brother or any of that. And then she got in touch with me a month after, and I only read like the first few things of the text. And I was at the kids' gymnastics. I started breaking down. I immediately felt sick. I was in tears. And my husband, of course, told her to not do that. But then I realised I had anxiety all my life. But because I'd had to be tough, because I'd have to be the strong one, I was the one who would call up for my brother for his friends to come. My mum didn't like using the phone. I was the one who took that role. So I wasn't going to have anxiety, was I?
No, you didn't have, like you're saying, it's almost like you had some of the responsibilities, to, you couldn't, be in that space to have that.
Well, no, because I couldn't be seen as weak. That was my mum. That was my brother. I had to be like my dad. Be strong.
So did you ever find yourself taking time to go through those emotions?
I have, yeah. So since going no contact and really digging deep, I was able to understand all this about my mum, understand all this about my dad, separate me from it. No, it wasn't my fault. That's the freeing stuff. That's what frees you.
Yeah.
It wasn't my fault. I'm not evil. I'm not ungrateful.
No. So now, how do you take all of this? Because what a journey, right? To get to this point. How did you take all of this, and how are you applying it and adding value to your clients? How are you applying that now for others, so that they could go through this healing that they've taken you some time to put together, and really shorten the process for someone else?
Well, yeah, because I've had to pull it all together and go to different healers and see what people are offering and therapists and stuff. But my situation, no one would ever say was deep narcissistic abuse, would say that it was CTSD or emotional, sexual, anything like that. However, I still had all of those feelings. Everybody goes through. So I'm blessed in a way, because of these experiences I've gone through. I can relate to whoever comes through my door. Because I think, had I gone through some of the huge amounts of trauma that other people have gone through, if someone had come to me and said, oh yeah, well, I felt a bit jealous of my brother all my life, and my mum didn't really want to know me, and all of that type of stuff, or it seemed like my mum didn't want to know me, that wasn't important, I don't think I would have seen that as damaging as it actually is, because of the huge amount of trauma that I would have gone through. It would have been possible to say, well, that's not a lot to deal with. You need to suck it up, as everyone would say to me.
It puts you in a place of being able to be compassionate and empathetic with the person, because you have that feeling, you understand those emotions, and be able, like you're saying, you may not have gone through it on a deep level, but enough to understand the journey that person is taking.
Yeah, because there's so many things that can happen to you as a child, but they all come back to the main three of shame, abandonment, and betrayal.
shame. Say those three again.
Shame,
Shame.
abandonment, and betrayal.
Wow. And so how, if you had to speak with someone in regards to those three emotions, how would you connect with them and let them understand that it was either shame or betrayal, or you said the third one was, you said
Abandonment.
guilt, abandonment. How would you, what would be like one sentence or one type of conversation, a quick conversation that you would have with a person that would identify, you say, well, that sounds like something of abandonment. That sounds something of shame. You know, how would you connect quickly to identifying that for the person?